morning, good morning, good morning. All right, it is Wednesday. Did I comb my hair? Yeah, I did. Sometimes my hair is so short, sometimes it doesn't matter if you comb it or brush it or not because it's still the same place. Anyway, hope everyone is doing well this morning. Happy Wednesday. And today I'm going to talk about why do we continue to make mistakes? I can see making a mistake the first time, but why do we choose to continue making the mistake? And sometimes the first mistake, I can include the first mistake. Sometimes we contemplate about making a decision and we make the wrong decision or the unloving decision anyway. And so why do we keep doing that? Well, the answer is really simple. As I'm always saying, it's always simple, right? But I understand. I understand it's not simple for everyone, or else they wouldn't be making mistakes. So, why do we continue to make mistakes? Well, the real reason, there's a bunch of components, but I'm sticking to the simple ones because that's what people need to understand is the simple ones, and then they can delve into it deeper and have a deeper understanding from that point. So the reason why we make mistakes is because we don't see the true consequences of our action. We don't see the true consequences of the choices that we make, and so therefore we continue to make mistakes. And what I mean by that is we oftentimes believe when we make a decision that we're making a decision to get an outcome, but we don't understand the other components that are also outcomes. Because our outcomes, outcomes, what is a better word than outcomes? The effects of our choices and actions are multifaceted. They affect many things on many different levels in ways that we don't understand, which is why we take the choice or make the choice or move forward with the action that we move forward with, because we don't truly understand how it will impact other things. And now that I understand this, I look at how it's going to affect the rest of, the rest of my experience and how it will affect my experience after the decision is made, and how it will affect other people after my decision is made. And most times we don't think about how it affects other people because we believe that we are living in a world all to ourselves, like we're living on an island all by ourselves, and every decision that we make will not affect others. And you can even take the Michael Jackson thing as an example. His actions towards children in an unloving way impacted people in the world. They were affected by finding out what he did with children. So his action between he and, say, another little boy or a child later came out and affected other people. And so that one action that he thought was only between he and the child has affected millions of people, if not billions of people. And so we have to look at how our interactions with or our decisions will affect other people, and in the long run affect ourselves. And this is interesting because I'm seeing a lot of interviews talking about Michael and Oprah and Monique and all this stuff going on. And people are saying, how can you do that? How can you do an interview like that, or interview these guys when the person who the allegations are being directed towards are not here to defend themselves? Well, actually, he is still around. And this is part of his law of attraction. His name is being brought up. You see, when Michael Jackson died, he died with an understanding that he died having an understanding as to how the public viewed him. And though he was acquitted of these charges and whatnot, he still did the things that he did. And he must, if he's not willing, this is interesting, if he's not willing to accept responsibility and be accountable for what he did and how he has harmed these children mentally, physically, and emotionally, if he is not ready to do that, then the karma still needs to be felt. It still needs to come. And the thing is, Michael is Michael because of the people on the planet. People loved him on the planet. And this is where he got his, what he called love. This is where he got the attention and the praise and people idolizing him. They came from Earth. And so he's very much attached to the Earth place. But if he has not, and I can tell that he has not because of what's happening. Same thing with Jussie Smollett, I think it is. He's still not being responsible or accountable for the things that he has done, including the things that were done to him. And that's actually the most important thing, is he's not willing to look at the pain that has been inflicted upon him. And the same thing with Michael. Michael was not and is not willing to look at the pain that is within him that caused him to do the things that he did, that the people are now up in arms about. And that goes for both of them, both Jussie and Michael. They have not accepted responsibility. They're not being accountable for those things. And because of that, they took actions that are harmful to others. They took an action, like I said, you take an action not understanding the consequences. But when you're a dark soul, when you're a degraded soul, and you have a lot, when I say degraded, when I say dark, there's a lot of emotional pain within it. Meaning there's a lack of love because someone did something to you to extinguish your light. It's like you have a bunch of little flames. If you can just imagine a billion flames, and every time someone hurts you, they extinguish one of those little candle lights, and your soul darkens. It's not as bright as it could be. And so the darker, the less love, the darker, the more intense the karmic, the bad karma, not the good karma, but the bad karma has to be brought to your experience. And so right now, Michael Jackson is getting his karma. He's getting the feeling. Michael Jackson isn't Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson is the celebrity. Michael Jackson denies who he truly is, and so he made himself the celebrity. And this is who he built his life. This is the platform in which he built his life upon. Michael Jackson is not a normal individual because he, like I said, he built his life upon that platform of stardom, of celebrity. And because he built it from that platform, that's how he became an amazing being. He wasn't a regular person who was a celebrity. He built his life upon that platform of celebrity, which is different than someone who's already established their identity and they have fame. So they establish their foundation as to who they are, broken or whatever, and that's where they live from. Michael Jackson didn't have that. He built his life on the platform of being a celebrity because he entered in at such a young age. So anyway, the reasons why we make the mistakes continually is because we don't see the consequences. We know the possibilities, but it's not enough for us to stop doing what we're doing. And a lot of times we don't want to ask what those consequences are because it will stop us from making a decision that will grant us something that we desire. I need to get over. Are you going to let me over? Of course you are. Of course you are, darling. So yeah, there was another component, and as I was getting ready, it hit me. Now I can't remember what it is. Making decisions because we don't see. Oh, and we can't see the consequences. That's the other thing, is we can't see the other consequences because of the darkness. If you understand love as being light, it allows you to see, and love allows you to see, which is why Michael did these things, because there wasn't a lot of love. Now, what he projected out into the world was an illusion of, and there were things that Michael did to help people, but it was only because he wanted to be loved, he wanted to be praised, he wanted to be idolized. Like, he didn't get this from his family, he didn't get it from his father, he didn't get it from his mother, he got it from the public, which is why at the end he basically shut out his family, and even at that, because the public turned on him. In his mind, they didn't love him anymore. And so this is why he became more of a recluse. But there are times he would go out and do things and to get the attention. But in the end, he couldn't really do that. Because how should I say? Well, I don't want to go too much into that man's life. But anyway, we do make mistakes because we don't want to see the consequences to the actions. And the thing is, if you are on a path of being more loving, if you want to improve your soul condition, and understand this is not a goal for a lot of people. It's not even a thought. It's not even something that they conceive is even possible. It's just, a lot of people just are lost out there, and they're just, living their life, not having any understanding about the soul, not having any understanding as to what's going to happen when they die, not having any understanding as to why the bad things keep happening, in their life. Like, all these things are going on, and people are completely oblivious about, or to them. And, it's warm in here, and it's 48 degrees outside. What's up with that? Yeah, they don't know. Then most people, you walk, just step out on the street and look around, and the majority of people who are walking are clueless. They are so involved in what man has created in terms of the way life should be lived and the things to work towards. They don't know what's going on. And a lot of them end up in a bad place when they die because they don't know. I was having a conversation, not a real conversation, but a chat, with my cousin, and we were talking, I don't know what the topic was about. It was one of my Facebook posts, but now I can't remember what it is. Oh, I think I had asked about karma. Or was it the cheese? Cheese. It was about cheese. That's that thing that's going around with parents throwing cheese at their child's face and recording it and putting it on social media. Well, he doesn't think anything is wrong with it, because it's like he's like, oh, it's a joke, it's no big deal. And then he said, that the law of attraction, he doesn't really understand the law of attraction, but the fact that he's even using it is a good sign, because that means that's now in his consciousness, and so later on he can learn more about it or get more clarity, because now it's in his conscious mind, whereas a year ago it wasn't. But the reason why it is because I post things like that and talk about it and things of that nature. So that's why he's aware of it, which is a good thing. He doesn't have a full understanding, but like I said, it's a gateway, it's an avenue for him to have better understanding later on down the road. So there's no reason to condemn him for it. I never condemn him for it. But when he does use it, I bring clarity to it. If he does say something, he uses law of attraction, I will put out there. I won't correct him, but I'll just say this is what it is, and it's up to him to accept it or reject it. But anyway, he was saying, that it was a joke, and there's nothing wrong with it, because the universe or God or whatever understand that he's doing it out of love. Well, there is another misbelief or misconception about love, because if you're loving, you wouldn't do that. But in his mind, he believes that that's a loving thing to throw cheese at his child and record it and put it on social media. Even if you just take the recording out and take the social media out, it's not a loving thing to do, to throw anything at anyone unless they are expecting it. So you wouldn't throw a ball at someone if they're not expecting it. You say, hey, catch. They're expecting it. There's an understanding. You're not doing something without someone's consent. If you say, hey, catch this, and they say, no, I don't want to catch it, you don't throw the ball. And so in this case, the child doesn't have the ability to exercise his free will or its free will to say, I don't want that thrown at my face. And so what parents do is say, oh, you can't talk, that means I can do whatever I want to you because you're not expressing yourself, and I know you can't express yourself, so it's not even, I shouldn't even consider if you should like this or not. I'm just going to do what makes me feel good. And so if harming someone, if doing something like that to someone who doesn't have consent, that, I don't know what I was just saying. I was looking at cars in my rearview mirror. If you do something like that, it's an unloving thing. And here's an example. If you have a person who is in a coma and they're out and you have sex with them, is that loving? You would say no. You would say no, that's not loving at all. That's taking advantage of them. They can't say whether or not they want it. They can't defend themselves from you pressing themselves upon them, pressing yourself upon them like that. And that's no different than a child. It's just not sexual. It's just a piece of cheese. But that's the thing. We accept things based on how we feel about them. You know, cheese isn't harmful, but sticking your dick in someone is. And that's how we see it. We don't see it from the perspective of universal law. We don't see it from the perspective of of what's loving and unloving, what's accepting and what's not accepting, from the perspective of God. Like, free will is something that's supposed to be respected and free will is something that's supposed to be respected and observed at all times. And anytime we make a decision that doesn't do that, we are out of harmony with love. So it doesn't matter whether you're throwing a piece of cheese, you're throwing a ball at the child, you're just doing something that you know would shock or startle the child. All these things we have to be aware of, and we don't make ourselves aware of these things. And again, that goes back to what I said. We make these mistakes because we don't understand the consequences. We don't understand the consequences. And one of the things that he said, he's waiting for God to come and save him from this bad world. But you know, from his lack of understanding, he doesn't understand that he's contributing to the bad world. And most of us don't. We see everything bad that everyone else is doing, but we don't see the unloving things that we are doing, because we are those things that we judge. And, you know, I understand this more now than I did 5 years ago. You hear people say it, you know, you are that which you judge. And we don't look at it that. We don't look at ourselves that way. Therefore, we don't believe the statement. We can say it, but we don't really truly believe the statement. And the thing is, that which you are judging, it's that judgment. It's the judgment alone that makes you just as bad as the other people. Because there's a reason why you're trying to distance yourself from it with judgment. There's a reason why. There's something that happened to you, or there's something that you do. And usually it's both. Because there's something that happened to you that's causing you to do what you're doing. And because we ignore this, I think I'm starting to remember what I wanted to bring up. When we ignore these things, when we ignore the pain, we take an action. All pain ignored is anger expressed in some way, shape, or form, whether it's directed towards yourself or directed towards others. And so when you ask me, why did you do that? They'll say, I don't know. I don't know why I did it. I'm just doing it. So even the serial killer, why is a serial killer killing people? You ask the person, I don't know why I did it. And they're telling the truth. They don't know why they did it. And the reason why they don't know is because they're denying their pain. They don't understand why they're doing what they're doing, because the cause they're denying. So they don't know why they're doing the bad thing. What's causing them to do the bad thing? Well, it's the pain that's within them. But they're ignoring the pain that's within them, which is driving them to take the action, the unloving action. All unloving things that come that we allow into our soul are unloving things that we express towards others. And if you look at serial killers or any kind of mass murderer person, they had a very bad childhood. Very bad childhood. And what we do is we express ourselves from the pain. Like, it's a result of the pain. So, and this is very common when kids are mistreated, they just wish people were dead. They wish people were dead. Because that, in their mind, that's the only way. Because we know what death is. As we grow up, we know that people die. And when people die, they're not there anymore. And that's the basic understanding of death for a child. And so I remember saying this all the time. I wish you were dead. When people used to bully me in school. When that used to happen, I used to wish that they would just die. And the reason why I wish that they were dead is so that they wouldn't come to school anymore. It's a basic understanding. It's like children come up with the most basic and what's the other word I'm looking for? Basic and what word? And the most efficient. They come up with the most basic and efficient way to solve the problem. It may not be the smartest. It may not be the most logical. But to them it's logical because they're only dealing with a small level of consciousness. It's very small. It's not expansive because they haven't lived for very long to have a deeper understanding. They know death. They know gone. They know gone. They know no more experience. Which is why they fear it when it comes to their parents. This is why they fear it when it comes. This is why it hurts when it comes to them losing a pet. If they know that the goldfish is dead, they're going to cry because it's gone. They're not there anymore. And it's the same thing with growing up as a kid. When people pick on them or when they're experiencing bad things, they wish that people were dead. And sometimes, and like I said, that's the outwardly expression of that. The inwardly expression of that is they wish they were dead. It's just, it's the basic understanding of how do I get this to stop? How do I get what is happening to stop happening? That's all it is. So these serial killers or mass murderers, whatever you want to call them, they do these things. Why? Because it's a childhood, their childhood understanding. Because that's where the trauma lies. That's where the trauma resides. And so as much as they try to escape it, they can't escape it. And when trauma is too great for that soul, they start taking action without looking at the consequences. Because they're ignoring, they're suppressing, they do not see the trauma in their past. They may be aware of the things that happened, but there's no feeling associated with it. This is why serial killers are, or mass murderers or anyone like that, are, sociopath. They have no connection whatsoever because they shut themselves off because of the pain. So we understand, maybe you understand, maybe you don't, but your soul is the guide to what is right and what is wrong. Your soul is the guide as to what is loving and what is unloving. And the reason why that is because God created the soul to understand the universe. The soul understands the universe. The universe is made in love. So the soul is designed to detect when you are out of harmony with the universe. The soul is smart. It's pre-programmed to know this. But when we are mistreated in a way where we have so much trauma, we shut that down. Because the very thing that can bring us happiness and joy is also that detecting system that we have, or I should say detection system that we have in terms of what's loving and what isn't loving. Oh, I was like, what's going on here? It detects it. But when that system that has been imbued within our soul, when it starts detecting more negative or more pain, it's like, I don't like this feeling. And the thing is, it's not that. What's really happening is the soul is detecting something, and the child or the soul is in a position where it cannot escape it. There's nothing wrong with the detection system. What's wrong is that the child cannot escape it. And this happens for many. You know what? You stupid fool. You need to make up your mind. The child isn't able to remove itself from the pain. And because of that, it shuts it down. It's like, okay, like the detection system is working. It's working perfectly. It knows that things are happening that shouldn't be happening, and that's determined by the feeling that it's getting from the actions from people outside of them. But because the child has been born into a family where there's a lot of unloving things, understand that a child that experiences trauma has been born into a family that is riddled with trauma. Every single soul that has emotional injuries passed on to it at conception is born into a family that is so degraded and pained it cannot see the damage that it's causing. It cannot see, understand this, people, those two souls that had sex and created your physical and spirit body for you, the soul, they cannot see the damage that is being done to you by them because they hold the same damage. And they are unwilling to see the damage within their soul. Therefore, they will not be able to detect the unloving things that they are doing to you. And this is why you are mistreated as a child. This is the only reason why it's happening. Your parents are degraded. Your soul is a duplication of them combined, or culmination, I should say. It's a culmination of both your parents. So now you have jacked up mom and jacked up dad stuff in your soul. So now the law of attraction is attracting it. And guess what? Guess who's the perfect law of attraction for all that crap in your soul? The people who gave it to you. That's it. If you were born yellow and your parents are yellow, who's the best person to raise you? The yellow parent. Because it's the same thing. If you were born with a dark energy and your parents are dark energy, that's a vibrational match. So when people wonder, why did I have these parents? That's why you have those parents. That's the only reason why you have those parents. Because it's the law of attraction. You can't have loving parents. Well, you can, but understand, other things are going to happen. Other things are going to happen. This is interesting. Other things are going to happen that's going to be equivalent, or I should say this. So let's say you're born and your parents give you up, or your mom's gone, your dad's gone, and your mom gives you up for foster care or adoption. You can have these parents, these new parents who are loving and kind and sweet, but that's not going to change your law of attraction. At some point in your existence, your soul will call to it the degradation that your original biological birth parents gave you. It will happen. That's not to say that, if your biological parents are poor and your new parents are rich and you get to have all this money and you learn how to create businesses, it doesn't mean that's not going to happen. It just means that there's just going to be a lot of trial and tribulation in your experience with all that money. That's all it is, with all the businesses that you own. So that means that you're going to get caught up in something where your businesses may be taken away. You may be caught up in some kind of white-collar crime, and now you're in prison for it. The condition of your soul will dictate the outcome. You can't change that. It doesn't matter if you change your physical parents. It doesn't change that at all. Listen, if you have a dirty body, and you haven't showered in I don't know how long, and you put on brand new clothes, that physical action is not going to change the dirt that's on your body. And so the clean clothes will then be soiled. It will be dirty. For that reason, if you don't clean up the dirt, the grime within the soul, then you can't change the outcome. You can try to change give the illusion that you have, but that doesn't actually change anything. And that's what we have to be mindful of. But the thing is, when we make these decisions, when I was talking about mistakes and how we don't understand and realize, is because we don't understand and realize what's within the soul. And so we make decisions not knowing what the outcome is going to be, the consequences that are attached to that decision. So yeah, you may think, oh, this business deal may make me money, but if it's unloving and you don't see it because you're blind to it, and having all that you have helps you to be blind to it, you won't see it coming. You won't see it coming. And the thing is, it's easy to tell. It's easy actually to tell. But you have to understand the basic principles of the universe. All things unloving will cause pain, will cause discomfort to either you and other people, depending. If you involve someone else in your unloving action, they will suffer too. If their soul calls for it. There's sometimes people can be completely unaware of a decision that or an agreement that they're making, and they will come out unscathed. But the person with the dark soul will be the one to suffer the consequences. And this is why there's a lot of, we see it as imbalance, like it's not fair. It's not fair. Both of these people were in on it, or both of these people were a part of it, but only one person gets penalized for it. That happens all the time, and people say it's not fair. How can that person get off but this one not? Well, it depends on the condition of the soul. It depends on if they were aware of what was going on or if they weren't aware of what was going on. The person who was aware, of what's going on, meaning they are aware of the unloving things that they're doing, the crime that they're doing, they will be penalized for it. But the person who's not aware and their soul condition doesn't need that to be an experience, meaning that their soul condition does not require the message of karma to be sent to them to better their soul, they won't have any negative consequence. But if they do need correction, they'll get the consequence. This is what I'm saying. We don't understand the outcome when we take our actions. And the reason why we don't understand it is because we don't understand the condition of our soul. And it's so important to understand the condition of our soul. Because if we can understand the condition of our soul, then we know that something's coming to be corrected. But if you know the condition of your soul, and there are things that have pained you, you release that pain so that the universe does not respond to it anymore. You increase the love in your soul. Therefore, you improve the condition of your soul. And as you improve the condition of your soul, everything's fine. Everything works out. There's no need for the pain. There's no need for you to go to jail. There's no need for you to go to prison. There's no need for you to lose a leg. You know, you look at these veterans. I know this is probably going to piss a lot of people off, but you know, all these veterans, you know, they're missing arms, legs, PTSD, they missing eyes and fingers and all these different things. You know, they're just half their body's gone, and they want sympathy from people. And the system is set up to do that. But the only reason why the system is set up to give sympathy to these people is because if you recognize the huge sacrifice that they've made, if you recognize that, then people are willing to jump in front of a bullet. This is not where... Oh, is this where I wanted to go? Yeah, people will... Actually, I'm not going to go there. You know, people who go and serve in the military, and they go to these, you know, war zones, they don't understand what they're doing. They don't understand, which is actually part of this video. They don't understand. They don't understand the mistake that they're making. In their mind, they're saying, I'm protecting. But what they're really doing is going out there to kill someone. And I'm not saying their sole intent, but some of them have a sole intent. And I rented a room out to someone. He was a Marine. And he wanted to kill people. He wanted to kill people. And this is the only legal, well, not the only legal way, but one of the legal ways that you can do it and not be penalized. A cop? Sure. You want to kill people? Become a cop. You want to kill people? Get into the military. Because you can do it and get away with it. You can't just do it as a civilian. You can only do it if it serves unloving people. Unloving people will ask you to kill. The military asks you to kill. And that's an unloving thing. And people say, oh, well, I'm going to get into the military because they pay for my college. Not understanding the decision. Not understanding the consequence of the decision. So fine. You want to go to college and you don't want to get a student loan? Because there's student loans out there. But you don't want to get a student loan? You want to get a house? So you want to use the GI Bill? You want to do all these things? In exchange, you have to potentially kill someone. Now, you may go into it thinking, oh, I don't have to do that. But once you do it, and you're expected to do it when it happens. Because they put you in a position where if you don't, you're going to be the dead one. And so we don't understand the unloving things that we do, the mistakes that we make. We don't see the consequences. I'm telling you, the people who come back with PTSD, with arms blown off, legs blown off, half a body blown off, half the face blown off, they can't see, they can barely eat, now they have to eat through a feeding tube. All these things are based on the mistake that they made. The choice that they made, that was a mistake, but they couldn't see it. Because they were a dark soul. And that's what I'm saying. Like, when you have a lot of pain in your soul, you can't see. You can't see. I know if I enter the military and I'm agreeing to let the government do whatever they want to do with me, meaning they tell me to go here, I go here. If I don't, I can be jailed. It's easy to understand. I can see if I made that choice what would happen. If I'm put in a place where I'm forced to kill someone, and if I don't, I can be reprimanded. You see the consequences. We have to see the consequences, and I know that's what the consequences are. I don't mind dying if it means I'm standing my ground and holding truth. I don't mind that. That's actually what Jesus did. If you really look at it, Jesus stood for truth, and he did not back down from it. And the consequence for that was death for him. And I don't mind that, because at the end of the day, your soul, what you do with your soul, the decisions that you make in love or out of harmony with love will determine everything. In the minds of the physical, it looks like the person is dead. But Jesus knew there's no death. Jesus knew of the kingdom that was in the spirit world. He also knew of the hells, but he knew of the kingdom. So there was no reason to have fear. None at all. And so he didn't have any. And he accepted whatever they were delivering to him, because he knew they weren't really delivering anything to them. He had total control over where he was going to go. Because he had total control over his soul, and he did not allow anything unloving to enter his soul. Meaning he was not forced to make a decision that would degrade his soul. He did not deny truth, which would have degraded his soul. Meaning he did not deny God, which would have degraded his soul. The thing is, any untruth that we accept. This is crazy. These cars, look at this double line. These folks crazy as hell. They all crazy as hell. Because, like I said, you have to be aware of the consequences. Jesus, because he had so much love, he knew the consequences. He knew that, and that's the thing, people say, oh, whatever, I'm not going to go into that. But anyway, he knew of the consequences from the choice he could have made. He knew of the consequences. What is the consequence if I tell an untruth? I darken my soul, meaning I lessen my chances of experiencing the things that I know I can experience in the spirit world. I lessen my chances of experiencing the very best. If I deny anything that is true, I will degrade my soul. Therefore, I lessen my chances, my own chances. And understand that's a decision made by self. All decisions are what are you doing? All decisions are made by us. Nobody does anything to us. We accept it or reject it. I'm not talking about the physical. You have control over your soul. Nobody has control over your soul. They may have control over your physical being, but that's just a physical and an extension of who you are. But if you allow someone to have control of your soul, then, well, it's not even that. If you allow someone to, how would I word that? Because nobody has control over your soul. If you allow someone to influence you to see yourself in a different light other than perfection, you make different decisions. You make unloving decisions. But if you hold steady in love, despite what people are doing to you, you're not penalized for that. They're actually setting you free. Like that's what they did with Jesus. When they crucified Jesus on the cross, they literally freed him from the pain and suffering. That's what they did. There was nothing wrong with him physically. There was no disease or anything like that he had to contend with that took his life away. No, he was fine. Someone came and tried to inflict pain upon him and take his life away, and he was released from that. His physical being could no longer be controlled, and then he was really set free. And the people on earth, meanwhile, the people on earth, I should say, are suffering. With their self-created rules and understanding being lost, not knowing what the truth is. This is the thing back in the first century, they didn't understand that killing Jesus was killing their opportunity. They didn't know that. They didn't know the consequences of their decision. They didn't know the consequences of their decision. Their decision to kill, their decision to murder. Oh. They didn't know they were shooting themselves in the foot. Their decision to ignore him, ignore his words. There were only words, people. He wasn't forcing anything upon anybody. There were only words. And they couldn't handle it. Because his words meant that the people had less control over the majority. And the few wanted to maintain control over the majority. And that's all Jesus was doing, is saying, hey, you can be free. Jesus was saying, you can be free like me. When you look back on the story, that's really what he was saying. You can be free like me. I am not bound by this physical world. And you don't have to either. Because you're not a physical being. That's what he was saying. And nobody wanted to, well, I don't want to say nobody, but a lot of people didn't want to listen. Because they were so focused on the physical. I could not even see this, say, 3 years ago. I didn't understand it like I understand it today. And the only reason why I'm able to understand is because I've allowed more love in my soul. So even if I have doubt, my clarity is the, how should I say? My clarity is the proof of my increased love within my soul. My clarity is telling the truth of the universe. If you allow yourself to have more love, if you allow yourself to have more understanding, if you allow yourself to have more compassion, if you allow this aspect of your being to be, you get clarity. And that's proof that the universe does deliver clarity, but only under those conditions of having love. That's it. All right, people. I hope you guys have a wonderful Wednesday, and I will talk to you guys later. All right, bye now.